Hey everybody, welcome to Champ and Sons episode 4 of our Let's Play Planet Coaster series. No, we do not have a name of the park yet, but we are working on that and should have one in the next couple episodes. Right now, what you're going to kind of see happen in this area, which is more of a Western type theme area, I'm going to be putting down a couple flat rides. I will build one more coaster in this episode along with a river rapids. So stay tuned for those. And the biggest change, I guess I would say, from the previous episode is I did name the roller coaster finally. We are calling it BRONCO. And I did build what I consider a custom sign. It's not the greatest in the world, but I've never claimed to be the greatest. It does look pretty decent and seems functional, for me at least. So that you will get to see that a little bit later on as we do a walkthrough of this section. And so, yeah, kind of where we're at right now. At least what's happening on the screen is laying down the flat rides, putting in some of the entrance cues. And with some of these flatter rides, what I do like to do for them that are more uniform at least is going ahead and put in like a base, a platform for these rides. Because a lot of times you're not always going to have these little things on just a plot of grass. Most of the time they're going to be generally on concrete. However, for something like this, it's kind of, I guess, more reminiscent of Fiesta, Texas, and their boardwalk section where everything's on the wood platforms and all that. So that's kind of what we're going with here. Going to be putting on essentially what amounts to a wood platform underneath this whole ride and this whole little portion right here. And a little bit later on in the episode, you're going to see us start putting in the buildings to go into this area. And sometimes the way the recordings worked out, I mean, I think everybody knows that there are times when daily life kind of gets in the way, and so I'll stop a recording and I'll get back on, and then I'll do some work without hitting the record button. That happens to me a little bit more often than I would like to say, I guess. So you might see some things jump in and be like, hey, that wasn't there before. Well, I'm just letting you know that's kind of why that tends to happen for me. Plus, some of the more tedious work in doing these things that doesn't revolve around buildings, just generally in the Planet Coaster parks is something that it's, man, if you're watching it straight up, I think we all can admit it can be a little bit difficult to kind of go, okay, yeah, no, I'll watch that. So you can kind of just save you all the trouble of having to worry about that. This fencing that you're seeing me put in to basically outline the entrance path, it's something that's going to be very prominent in this section. And it's, I guess, more of a Western type section. I wasn't initially intending for that, but anytime you put in a wooden coaster, even if it's a hybrid one, things just tend to go that way, I think. So and that's kind of what we did with this in this area. And so one thing you'll notice as I go to put in some of the buildings is working on the angles and the roofing for them. That becomes a little bit hectic for me. And I know there's so many different pieces that we can use that like I said, sometimes I try it, sometimes I don't. I just tend to generally go with the easier route. May not always be the best looking, but it's functional. It's like this is a fence. It's just a standard wired fence, but using it to top off the entrance path or entrance queue. So that way anything on the ride, if it were to be flung off, wouldn't land on any people and keep everybody safe. I guess safety is a priority I got to kind of start thinking of as we go. And I will be doing some of the foliage work. I've always said that's generally been one of my bigger struggles. So we'll get into that and we'll struggle with that together a little bit later on in the episode. And as I get into after putting in the second coaster and the river rapids, I can tell you the river rapids, we will need to be waiting till the next episode to do a lot of the, I guess, theming around it and the overall, layout design. Not so much layout design, but I guess theming is the best way to put it. So I'll be doing that in the next episode. So stay tuned and join us for that when the time comes. So right now, focusing mainly a lot on this one flat ride. The swings are on the other side, and I will get to that in a little bit. Here, just kind of making sure we have some barriers to protect everybody against it, so nobody kind of jumps into it, is the idea, even though that's a pretty low fence. Yeah, and I can safely say, when looking at that ride, one thing I did forget about with my roller coasters that I gotta work to remember is the priority pass. I put an information booth in there to get priority passes for a reason, so I need to use it. So I did have to come back to the coaster at this point and work on putting in that priority pass entrance queue. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just kind of trying to figure the layout, make it as simple as possible. And so that way, whenever it comes time to do some of the finishing designs on that, it shouldn't be too much to put in. And so that's kind of where we're at. So definitely stay tuned for seeing the second coaster come in, and you will see me design the sign for that as well. I call it a custom sign. It's as custom as I'm going to make it. I think later on I'll venture out into trying more things with some of the shapes versus just some of the overall design pieces. But that'll be later on. So go ahead, enjoy the building of this area, and I'll check back in with y'all here in a little bit. So have fun. enjoy some of that. I know I mentioned before about how the recording kind of jumps around and some things got cut out. Well, I think all y'all probably noticed a lot of those buildings got shoved in there without ever being seen on the footage. That, once again, as I kind of mentioned before, is more, that's actually my fault than a faulty recording, because I just completely forgot to hit record, really. And so, yeah, we didn't get to see those put in, but we will take a walk around this section here in a little bit. And that's where we'll kind of get a better shot of some of those buildings so you can kind of see the layouts for them, the design that we went with in it. So working on this one right now is more of a flashback style. We do call this one GunSlinger. This seems to be very fitting for it. And I did have a little bit of trouble with that layout. I think some of y'all noticed. It just didn't seem to level off for me or match up, and so I had to make some of the corrections there. But the station came along pretty smooth. I think I've gotten a pretty good handle on these types of wood stations. And just kind of finishing off the exit queue at this point, just putting a little walkway, a little fencing around that. You know, safety first, as we always say. But not really. And I think some of y'all will probably notice that I did the outline of the station for the River Rapids ride. We will be getting to that one, like I said, in the next episode. That's where we're probably going to put most of our focus into that, as well as some of the foliage that we kind of work with. So just kind of finishing this off, and then we're going to jump into the custom sign for it. That, once again, like I said, has kind of been a majority of my struggle. I would say foliage and then custom signing. You know, even in this, as you see me putting the entrance sign here, I had to go back and change it up a couple times. Because these wooden pillars are, man, they are just hefty. And not really what you need for a ride like this. So we went with more of a basic just post that they have, the 4-meter post. Got that put in there. And so that kind of just marks it off on how we get into that one. With the custom signage that we have coming up, I'll go with the standard shapes for the backgrounds of them. I haven't really figured out how working the shapes to actually make the letters or anything like that. I tried, but we'll get into that later on as we get further into this park. I can tell you right now, with where this will be finished up at this video, that is how far along in this park we are. It's only 4 episodes in. We're not even done with this first section, so we got a ways to go. We get that put into position, and here we go working on the sign. I'll go with the basic flat shape, the larger one for the background of it, and then I'll kind of design off of that, you know. And really, I went with the basic wood pieces. It's what I did for the Bronco sign that you'll see coming up here in a little bit, and I think they do work out for a section like this. It has this kind of theming, and I did make a mistake in terms of the easiest way to do the advanced move tool, to where you don't have to select every single time just the one piece, is to attach it into a building, so that way the advanced move tool can stay as an option for you. So I just take a post, sink it down below, and then start working on the sign from there. I did have some problems with the advanced tool. I think y'all will probably see that here in a little bit. I just couldn't get it to line up right at all times, so I went through and made some iterations to this to the sign a few times, actually, as you'll see. But I think the finished product came out pretty dang well for this type. It's not too huge, and yes, I know everybody's looking at this going, whoa. That's a 2x4 on the large flat pieces. That sign's going to be massive. And let me tell you, it was massive. And so that's why I changed it up, and I stretched it out. Instead of having it be on top of each other, I stretched it out to go side by side with each other. Here I'm just lining everything up, getting the S in. It looks suspiciously like a 5 GunSlinger. That actually, I don't think, see, right there, you can tell I had those problems. Look at it, it's coming in off center. Even try to do it, just ain't right. I said, forget it. I'm gonna just do this by myself. So just line them up and get them put into place. And so that was the biggest struggle with this sign. And some of the buildings that you'll see when we do our walkthrough on this episode, I didn't really run into too much. I think I'm going to have to change those in the future. As much as I hate to do that, I think it's just one of those things that's going to have to happen. Because right now, in the section, you'll see there's a barbecue, there's a rib place, and a juice stand, and a bathroom. You know, y'all saw me putting that bathroom in there at that last little bit. But, and I think it's just going to need more, you know. And so that's what I'm going to end up probably having to maybe change up. Or I'll just go the easier route and add in another building or two that has, you know, maybe a couple extra shops and maybe an additional restroom. And I think one of the things that you might have noticed by this point is there are no people. The park is closed at this time. I will open it up to build with people in it, but that probably will not occur until I at least get this first section done. And that's mainly just for my own personal preference. I prefer to build without people, without it being open. And I can tell you, because really it's just an OCD thing of mine. If I'm going to build a park, I want it to all be ready when I open it. I don't want to build a park and with the way Planco's time frames work, be in year 37 by the time I get the 4th roller coaster in. Although oddly enough, that's probably actually more realistic for opening up theme parks. I would figure these days with how often new ones come out, as far as rides that is. So that's kind of where we're at. We will see people on it, and I promise you we will take a look at some of these rides and queues once people are in there. And I think, like I said, the next episode is going to be a lot of a detailing episode in terms of the station for the river rapids and some foliage. You'll see when we do the walkthrough, we do have some trees down and some plants that I do actually think look pretty decent, which is kind of a shocker for me, but that's what we're going to go with for now, and we'll update that in the next episode. So what you see me doing is there are two basically 6-shooters, 2 revolvers that are a design piece, and it took me forever to find these dang things. I swear that was ridiculous. And here I am with the advanced move tool, kind of screwing with my head again. And I'm not gonna lie, whenever I used these before, whenever I was playing in just a random park before, they looked bigger. Well, if there's a bigger one out there, I couldn't find it. So if you know where it's at in the set piece, in the design pieces, let me know. Alright, so here I am placing it, and here I am with the epiphany of, holy Lord, this thing is massive, and is not going to cut it. Okay, so here's our walkthrough, and you're going to see some of the changes that I have made for it. So coming up first is our Bronco sign. You can see it off to the left, set into the rocks. And thanks to the mouse controls and everything for Planco, this is kind of hectic to do. Here we are, we're going to go down, and here's our first turn. So we are going to turn left here, and you'll see the shops there on your left side in that building. There's our flat ride. And then here comes some of the other buildings in the middle section I put to kind of fill that area out. Face into the trees. Here comes some other ones. I struggle with this control heavily. So there's a little graveyard I decided to put in, because every western town's got to have a graveyard. There's our unfinished river rapids. Like I said, we'll do that on the next episode. And as we come around this corner up here is where you'll see the redo of the GunSlinger sign for the... Okay, and we're going to be coming around this corner shortly. Once again, I fiddle with these controllers because it's just a little bit difficult to go through and do that. As you can see, there's a redo of it. I'll be posting it to the workshop and closer shots later on. So stay tuned for that, and I promise y'all I will be getting better at this, okay? So just join me along for that ride. So as always, stay safe and later.